Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be solving inequalities and graphing inequalities. So we're going to take exactly what we did yesterday and the day before with the graphs, and we're going to combine it with the knowledge that we have from last week and the week before that and the week before that was solving equations. Okay? Now, here's the good news. If you can solve an equation, then you can solve an inequality. Okay? The process is exactly the same. There's only one thing that's going to be different in the entire thing. Okay? And then we're going to, after we solve, graph. All right? So first I want to look at this equation up here. X plus 6 is equal to 2. So let's just solve it real quick. I'm going to draw my line. What am I going to do with that 6?
Minus, so then you minus it on both sides, and then you'll get -4 on one side and x on the other.
Perfect. Okay? So we're going to subtract 6 on both sides. So we end up with a solution of x equals -4. Now, a lot of us in the past have just kind of ignored that equal sign. We're like, oh, okay, whatever. It's an equal sign, right? And so a lot of us just put -4 as our answer. But technically our answer should always be x equals -4 because that's what we're solving for, okay? In an equation, when you have an equal sign in the middle, okay, your answer is a point. It is one spot on the number line. In this case, it would be right here. It is just one spot on the number line. X is equal to -4. That's the only thing that we can put in here to make this true. If I put anything else in for x, this would not be true, okay? But if I put in -4 plus 6, I'm going to get 2. With an inequality, it's a little bit different. So we're going to come over here. We see the exact same thing, but notice in the middle, instead of an equal sign, we have an inequality symbol. Can anybody tell me what that inequality symbol says?
Less than or equal to?
Good. So when we get our solution, it's not going to say that x equals something. It's going to say it is less than or equal to something. Okay? So just like we did with the equation, we would draw the line, but this time we would use the inequality symbol. And we're going to make sure that we pay attention to what that is now. Okay? We're not just going to assume that it's an equal sign. We're going to pay attention to what we see. Just like we did with the equation, we're going to subtract 6 from both sides. Okay? And just like we did with the equation, we're going to get x on one side and -4 on the other. Notice how none of that process changes. The only thing that's different is now, instead of putting an equal sign as part of our solution, we're going to do this. So we're going to say, instead of saying x equals -4, we're going to say x is less than or equal to -4. Okay? So if your answer does not have this inequality symbol in it, it's technically not correct because x does not equal -4. X is less than or equal to -4. And those are two very different things. Okay? Once you have solved that inequality, now you can graph it. Okay? So when you see an inequality, if x is not by itself, then you need to solve before you can graph. Okay? We have the little line underneath the inequality symbol, so that means that I'm going to have a filled in circle, so a point that is filled in. Because I do have that little line, that means it's equal to -4, okay? And it says x is less than or equal to -4. So since it's less than, it means any value that is less than -4 is also an answer to the problem. That means I could plug in any value that is less than -4 and it would make this statement true. Okay? So the only difference here is the symbol that goes in the middle and what it actually means, what our solution means. And that's why we graph them, because we want to show that we're not just talking about -4, but we're also talking about -4 and every number that is less than -4. Okay? So one variable equations give us 1 point as the answer. I want you to underline the word equations. and 1 point. Because when we have an equation, when we have an equal sign, we're going to have 1 point as the answer, just like we showed in this graph right here. But inequalities have many points as the answer. Okay? So rather than putting a point here and a point here and a point here and a point here and a point there, we're just going to put an arrow that points to the left. That means anything less than. Okay? All right, so we're going to do a couple of examples below. Now notice all of these problems have addition or subtraction with them. Okay? Because multiplication and division, we're going to have one specific rule to add. All right? So we're going to start with the line down the inequality sign. Can anybody tell me what the inequality sign in this particular problem says? The inequality sign in x plus 7. Perfect. So if I were to read this entire thing, I would say x plus 7 is greater than 11. Okay, so a number plus 7 is greater than 11. I see addition, so I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. On the left, I'm left with y. These are going to cancel out because 7 minus 7 is 0, and then 11 minus 7 is 4. Now I'm going to be very careful because my answer is not y equals 4. My answer is y is greater than 4. So I'm going to make sure I go back up to my original problem and make sure I'm putting the correct inequality sign down. Because my answer is not 4. It is y is greater than 4. Okay? So, question?
Would you ever solve y? Like, is it possible to solve y in that equation?
No.
Okay.
It's never going to have a definitive answer. As long as it starts with an inequality symbol, it's going to end with an inequality symbol. Okay? Now, this does not have the little line underneath. So my point on my graph is going to be an open circle at the number 4. Notice we have to actually find the numbers on our graphs today, so that's a skill I know. And we're saying that y is greater than 4. Okay, so it doesn't include 4 in this solution, but it is any number greater than 4. So my arrow is going to point to the right. Remember, as long as they're in this order, variable, inequality, number, we can use the trick of if the inequality points to the right, our arrow goes to the right. But I like to use the trick of reading it out loud. I've got y is greater than 4, so I'm going to go any number greater than 4. Okay? All right, let's look at the next problem. We're going to start with drawing our line down the inequality sign. That inequality sign says less than or equal to. So if I were to read this out loud, it would say -8 plus y is less than or equal to -3. What number do I need to get rid of or undo to start this process?
8, -8.
Okay, how do I undo -8?
Add.
Perfect. I'm trying to get to 0, right? Anytime I'm dealing with addition or subtraction, I want to get to 0. So -8 plus 8 will allow me to do that, so I can cross those out. I bring my y down, and then I have -3 plus 8. Be careful before you shout on an answer. -3 plus 8. Somebody give me the answer. -3 plus 8. 5. Perfect. Okay. But my solution is not y equals 5. My solution is y is less than or equal to 5. Okay? So I'm going to circle my answer there. I like to use boxes. I don't know why. I prefer that. And then I'm going to graph it. If I'm given a graph, then I'm going to use the graph. Okay? So I'm going to put the point at the 5. Is it filled in or not filled in? Right? It's closed or filled in. I put it at the number 5 because that's the number that I see here in my solution. And then I'm doing everything y is less than or equal to 5. So which way is my arrow going to go?
Right.
Y is less than or equal to 5. Yep. Read it out loud. That's my best hint. All right. Let's do one more together, and then we'll practice them on our own. All right, so we have 15 is greater than or equal to a plus 17. You might notice that this time my problem is kind of flipped around, okay? So at this point we have two choices. We can either flip it around and then solve it, or we can solve it and then we can flip it around. Which would you guys prefer to do? Flip and then solve, or solve and then flip? Solve and then flip? All right. So we're going to put our line down the inequality sign. So 15 is greater than or equal to a plus 17. To undo that 17, what are we going to do? Very good. Anything I do on one side, I have to do to the other. 15 minus 17 is?
2.
Negative 2. Okay, and then over here, these cancel out, so I'm left with a. My inequality symbol says greater than or equal to. Okay. Now, if I didn't have to graph this, I could just leave it like this. Okay? But when I'm graphing something, I want to make sure it's in the right order. So I need my variable to go first. So I'm going to put a first. If I flip it around, I cannot just flip the letter and the number. I can't just flip the variable and the number. I have to make sure the inequality is still pointing to the right thing. Or if you remember back to elementary school, like nom nom nom, eating the right thing, right? Okay? Yeah. Like Pac-Man, nom nom nom, alligators, right? Monsters, whatever it was. So in this case, it's pointing at the A and eating the negative 2. So I'm going to flip the entire thing around. Okay? I'm going to flip the entire thing around. Again, this is a correct answer, but I have a graph here, and in order to graph it, I want my variable to go first. Okay? Because that's what I'm graphing. I'm graphing the variable, what the variable represents. So now I have a is less than or equal to negative 2. So I'm going to put what kind of circle? Filled in or not filled in? Closed. Good. At which number?
Negative 2.
So there's negative 1. There's negative 2. And then which way is my arrow going to point?
Left.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to give you guys some time, and you are going to practice with 14 through 18.
No.